Hello everyone, Nakura here, and today I'm going to be doing another one of my track tours. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but I figured it's time I did another one. Maybe I'll do these more regularly. I don't know. I think I said that last time, but just I end up procrastinating a lot with these kind of things because I think it's like I'd rather be making music than like going over old stuff. But I think these kind of things are useful to people, so I should do them more often. Anyway, today I'm going to be going over my track High Score. It's a future based track that I did under my Magic Splash alias. I think it came out in August. Yeah, right at the tail end of August. So it's a couple months old now, but it's a pretty good track. I still have it kind of fresh in my mind. So I'm going to go ahead and play the song for you, and then I'm going to go over each track and part, and I'll go into the mixer and all that and explain why I did things the way I did and chose the things I did. But so yeah, let's hear what this sounds like, and then I'll go ahead and talk about it. All right, so that's the song. So let's get started. Before I actually get into the tracks, I wanted to point out like some of the fundamental things for the song. So put the tempo at 160. Pretty kind of standard BPM for this type of future bass, I think. Like especially the kawaii kind. I got a little bit of swing on it, 17%. Just to add swing, makes the drum sound better, more groovy. The structure is intro, bass, breakdown, build, drop. Then I have this section called chip, which is kind of like the mid section. And I have the second breakdown, build 2, drop 2, and then chip 2, and then the outro. I'm not really sure if this is a normal structure for a future bass track, but it's more similar to like what I would do in a hardcore song. Ended up working out, so I went with it. So yeah, let's solo out some of these tracks and then go into it. So I'm going to start with the drums first. Come on, let's get all this. So the first thing you'll hear in the track is the tiny snare and the clap. Well, and the crash, obviously. Tiny snare is just like a kind of standard trapish snare. I pitched it up a little bit. Currently hitting a D note. I would assume that's the note it's actually hitting because of how I pitch my drums. Clap. Pretty standard type clap. Not really a 909 clap, but it's kind of similar. And then next you hear the open hat. I went for a really like thin open hat here. Classic kind of 909 open hat, so nothing special. It's literally just from a 909. I don't think I did anything particularly special with these, just besides EQing in the mixer. Yeah, so just low cut in the tiny snare, low cut in the clap, and then open hat has a crusher on it. So, all right, let me go over that real quick. So what this is literally just a camel crusher that I have in Patcher so I can drive it into it. And then I have very subtle distortion and then like a post gain. I don't use the ones on here, like the mix and volume, because they are a little finicky. So I'd rather just do it in Patcher. And that's just to kind of squash it down. So like... Also adds a little bit extra harmonics in it, and as you can hear, it sounds a lot thicker with it on, so that's what that's doing. I have a pretty dramatic low cut. Yeah, so that's how I made it so thin. Is doing that. All right, now that I've muted all or unmuted or soloed the open hat track, now I gotta unmute all this stuff. So 1 second. Next, I'm gonna go over this filter Amen, which is it's pretty simple. Let's see, let me solo that in here. Just an Amen break with low pass and high pass filter on it, and then EQ to cut out any low end stuff. I was going to use it more throughout the song, but it ended up only being in the intro, so that's fine. It's just like a little fill. Alright, next let's get into all this stuff. That's the main beat with the ride. The ride does not appear during the drops, so I'll go ahead and play the drop percussion now. Let's see, the drop has the ratchet hi-hat in it instead, so that's how it kind of makes up for it. And then here are the drums in the chip section. Just kind of like a more stripped back version of the drums with these gaps in it, which I'll go into later, but that's where we have some like chip, like arpeggio fills. So let's go into the kick drum. Basic kick, nothing done to it. It's literally just from a sample pack. I'm not sure which one. Wicked Drum Hits, I think it is, and that's a Black Octopus Sound sample pack. This is a peak controller, and I'll go into what that's doing in a second here. So next we have the snare, which is several snares layered together. None of these have effects on them. Again, these are probably, these are just Black Octopus Sound and Leviathan snares that I've all pitched and then put those together in a layer. Except for this one. Oh, that one's at hitting a different note than the other ones. So that's why that one's on its separate MIDI channel. So the layer is only playing, yeah, the top two. Then on I bust them together, put a little bit of a gated reverb using the gating on the ambience. It's an old reverb. I believe it's only 32-bit, but it's an oldie but a goodie. Get out of here. Then I put this compressor. I'm still not 100% sure how to pronounce that, so I won't try. But it's a good free compressor you can get from Tokyo Dawn Records. They do have a gentleman's edition that you could pay for, which I might buy someday. It costs like $30, I think. It gives you a few extra features. But anyway, this is my favorite compressor. It's really transparent, just a nice compressor. And that's basically just squashing the beginning transient, because I want the end part of the snare, like the part, to be louder. So that's what that's doing. That's the snare. Let's go into these hi-hats real quick. Just a really basic kind of almost 808 style hat. Yeah, it is actually an 808 style hat. I do have a ratchet version of that, which is, so it's got all those like ratchets in it, and I like that. That plays during the drop. I've already gone over the open hat. Next there's the ride, which I believe is probably a 909 ride. No, it's from Leviathan. So yeah, and then this one, all right, this next part is kind of fun. This is some samples I made from like flicking and messing with an old soda can. Well, it wasn't a soda can, it was a LaCroix sparkling water. Anyway, this is from a sample pack I made for my Patreon, and that sounds like this. So that just kind of like fills out the drums during that section. Just keep them interesting after 8 bars. That's pretty cool. Next we have a snare roll. This is the same snare I used in my track this moment. I went ahead and just did velocity, and then I did fine pitch here. So that way it like pitches down. And then I also have a little fill right here, just to bring it in. I believe all I did was low cut that. Yeah. Oh, I didn't go over the can perks. So I just merged those so that they're monophonic. Summed up the stereo channel. Did another. Oh no, this is a Chip Crusher. I put that on there to give them kind of like an Amiga sound. I just used the Amiga high quality preset. I low cut them, and then did a little bit of a scoop right here in the mid, so it's just like mostly high end. And then I did put the EQ on, or compressor on them. It's the same kind of compression deal I did with the snare, where I kind of want the transient to not be so strong, but I want the rest of the sample to kind of be louder. I'm just squashing that out. Next, there's the crash, which is probably just a 909 crash. Yep. Really basic, nothing going on here except it has a crusher on it to, squash it, make it louder, and add some extra harmonics. Same thing I did with the open hat. All right, now let's get into this noise. So this is what it's called, background perk noise, and what that is I bust the kick and snare together, and it makes this kind of like crunchy background noise. So if I take this and turn that off, That's all that's doing. So what that is a peak controller here, and I mapped that to a Fruity Balance. So when the hits happen, it turns the volume up, and when they're not there, it goes back to 0. And then I put a low cut on there to get rid of all that nasty low noise. I think there's a lot of it. Yeah. So that's what I did with that. It's literally just like a noise sample. Is there any way I can play it? I think I just drag it in here. No, it's already in there. Anyway, it's some really nasty kind of sounding noise. I think I could probably get this in here. Yeah, let's go to project data. No, because it's in a zip folder. Here's what I'll do. Clone it. Take that out. Put no time on it. Yeah, that's what the noise sounds like normally, and I just threw it on there and processed it like it did, and it kind of fills out the drums a little bit, gives them an extra bit of noise. All right, so that's pretty much all the drums. I guess I can go over these toms real quick. They didn't really fit the track, so that's why they're muted. I ended up taking those out. So let's go in this bass. So the bass is a Harmer. I like using Harmer for basses a lot, and just any sound really, because it's an additive synth, so you can really sculpt how it sounds. And so that's how we ended up with this bass sound that's kind of like a sawtooth, but still has a lot of sub. Let me... So yeah, I put the mix in the middle, so it's kind of like a mix between a square and a saw, but then like this local EQ is like what gives it that sound. So the bass is pretty simple. I have a EQ here, which is what this automation controls. So when the kick hits, it ducks underneath or the bass ducks underneath the kick. But just the low sub, really. I did drag a copy of the kick into the playlist here, so I can see how the kick's shaped. So I basically made this automation clip to kind of follow the kick shape. So that's why it's this big scoop right here, but like we don't really need to cut the bass out so much right at the beginning, because that's just a transient of the kick. So that's really just like a high-end click. And then this, it just kind of slowly fades back in as the kick kind of decays. And the reason I did that is because, it layers with the kick drum. So the kick drum plays almost the exact same notes as the bass, or rather the bass plays almost the same exact notes as the kick drum. Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, they kind of just like complement each other, and like they fit really well in the mix because I did that little scoop trick with the EQ. Next, we have the MIDI slap bass, and this plays throughout the bass line. So here, I'll go ahead and play it. So that's there, but the most prominent part you're going to notice is right at the beginning, which is this little like doo-doo-doo-doo-doo thing I did. And what this is literally just the MIDI, or the slap bass from like the Roland MIDI sample library, which they have or general MIDI, yeah. So they have the general MIDI library inside Flex and FL Studio, and I just loaded it up there. Normally I would use Fruity LSD to load that up, but I don't really need to do that anymore, and it's more flexible inside the synth. That gets high passed out here, or no, it gets crushed. I believe there's a low cut on here. Yeah, because I don't want the sub bass. I just want like the actual bass. So yeah, that's pretty simple. The crush is literally just the crush plugin. It's a big crusher. So yeah, that's the MIDI slap bass. Next, we'll go over the lead. We'll do all the lead layers. So all together, it sounds like this. let's go over this modular lead. So this is a lead that I recorded from my modular system. So I basically have a filter here, and that's just an effect where I automate it throughout. HP filter, same thing. Same thing with the Bit Crusher. I don't have any delay on it. Muted that. Low cut it, and then added some reverb with Raum. It's my favorite reverb plugin at the moment. All these are bussed together, but I was literally just so I can tweak the volume, and I only ended up doing basically nothing to it. Alright, so next is the pulse lead, and this is like kind of like gives the song that like chiptune vibe. So that's just, I believe that is, yeah, that's just synth 1 with a pulse width modulation going on. And that just has a low cut EQ balance because I make that louder during the chip section, which I'll go into in a second. And then it has the Raum reverb. It's probably the same exact patch as the lead. And then we have the high saw, which is just there to add a little bit of high end to the track. I didn't do anything to it besides, I might have done some stuff on the synth level. Yeah, I did that in Serum and did a massive like filtering. And all that's there is just to add some high end to the lead. All right, next we have the chip section, and this has like a second melody that is more like chiptuney. I suppose I should have gone into the lead melody actually. So yeah, this is what the lead melody looks like. I believe all the songwriting was done on, yeah, it was done with pianos over here. Ooh, that is really loud. Sorry about that. Turn those down. So I sketched the entire song out with those pianos before I actually started like doing synth stuff. So yeah, anyway, that's the pulse lead, but then I also did some fancy stuff here where I added a second melody, like, or layer to it. So that sounds like this. So it's kind of like, I was thinking if I was using like an actual like Nintendo Entertainment System, and I had my 2 pulse channels doing different melodies. So that's where this idea came from. Yeah, and it's just another note because this is, you know, polyphonic synth. So yeah, that's the lead melody. Next we have these saw jabs, and this is just something that's in the background to kind of fill out the like drop sections. Oh. That was made with Dune 3. Got a little compressor on there, and that's it. It looks like there's an EQ. Oh, I used a high pass filter. Okay. So I saw this roll off, and I'm like, surely I EQ'd that. No, I didn't. So all right, next I'm gonna turn all these on. What are the? Oh, these are mutes for the chords. All right. So these are the chord stacks. What would a future bass song be without chord stacks? So the main section is, this is like where kind of like all of them play. As you can see, they all have different like automations and stuff going on And I did bust them all together, but again, that is, oh, I did actually do some stuff here. Okay, so I did compress these, and I did low cut them all, and then the mute is on there to like mute them in certain sections. Anyway, this is the like main section of the chord stabs altogether. Then during the chip section, there's kind of the same thing, but I added in the cheap brass chords and filtered out this one a little bit. That's also where the mutes come in. So let's kind of go over these individually. Real quick, I did throw a Maximus on here, and I did in Patcher, so I have control over the pre and post gain. And then this is just to cut out any unwanted low end, and then the mutes are there to mute them. So let's do chords 1. Those are done with a Dune 3, kind of simple super saw-ish kind of chord sound. I have the filter on there for filtering. Let's see that throughout is automation clips. I have a low cut on there. Then realm reverb, and there's a mute on here as well. And yeah, I wanted the bus mute to be different than some of like the individual mutes. That's chords 1. Chords 2, same kind of deal with the EQs and the mutes, and this one has a high pass filter on it, but all these filters are really there just for automation. I'm not doing anything like mixing wise with the filters. I use EQ if I would do that. So these ones were done with Repro 5, which is a kind of an emulation. Well, it's technically an emulation of the Pro 1 with just 5 voices. So it's not really a Prophet 5, but it's kind of similar to a Prophet 5. And yeah, this is made by Yuhi, and it's a good synth. I recommend it. It does introduce some noise sometimes with the processing, which can be a problem with rendering, but other than that, it's a good synth. Maybe it's too accurate in that it does that. Let's layer 2, layer 3. And same deal. This one doesn't have any low cut on it because I didn't need it, because I'm assuming since it's red that is, yep, it's a armor, so it doesn't really have some of the problems that like an analog emulation would. So just a big kind of smeary fat super saw. All right, and then this plays pretty much throughout the song. Every time there's chords playing, this plays, and this is just a quick little stabby sound that I made with I'm assuming Dune 3. Yeah, and this is just to kind of give the chords more like attack. That's really all it does. Didn't need any reverb or anything because it's just there to augment the existing sounds. And then last but not least, we have the cheap brass chords, and I don't remember what yeah, it's the flex preset. Again, no reverb or anything on those because they're kind of underneath the other chords that already have a lot of reverb. So yeah, those are the chord stacks. All right, next we have the chip ARP, which is 2 layers. Where are they? Here we are. Go ahead and play those. So yeah, those are both done with NES VST, which is old SynthMaker VST. I think that's SynthMaker. No, it's not SynthMaker. That's no, it is SynthMaker. Could be Flowstone. I don't know. Anyway, it's an old VST. It's only 32-bit, if I recall. Yeah, 32-bit. But it's really good for, you know, emulating the NES. It has really good samples, I assume, or it's just straight up emulation. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, it sounds like NES. That's why I used it. And this is just kind of emulating like something you might do on an NES, actually. I I don't really have mode switching, so that's why I have two layers because they have different duty cycles. So like if I was doing this on an actual um tracker, like Fami tracker or something, I would just switch the mode as these notes played, or I have a different instrument, as they call it, in a tracker. But it's harder to do that with a FL Studio, so I just made two layers. And these little quick arpeggios are kind of like how you'd make a chord sound in old chiptune style tracks. So yeah, that's what that is. Just there in the background during the chip section to kind of fill it out. Okay, Sparkle. So this is like a melody that I only intended to use right at the intro, and it kind of follows like what this does, I think. Yeah, it's just these notes, but like really high up on the keyboard. And so what this sounds like is it's muted in the, there we go. So that's just to give it some like high-end sparkle right at the intro, but then I ended up using it in the outro and during the chip sections where I did a different thing with it, where I layered these up with like another note that like plays like kind of off timing. Believe that, yeah, that's a flex preset. Yeah, and then in the outro it just switches back to the normal sparkle. That's that. Alright, the vocals in the track. Or maybe I should go over the mixer first. For the sparkle, it's just a mute and then EQ. That's literally it. Alright, now the vocals. So these are samples of Diva from Overwatch. I got some reverb on them. My kind of vocal compression chain, which is ADHD Audio Tools leveling tool. It's an emulation of some classic compressor. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but it's really good sounding. It does introduce some low noise though, so I cut that out. And then I have a limiter to just catch any like rogue spikes that come through. So I'll go ahead and just have all these open while I play the vocals. So the first one is the "Ah Yeah" vocal.
Oh, yeah!
I time stretched them so they fit. And then I had this one where Diva goes, "Hey."
Hey!
And then this one says, "Try and keep up, okay?"
Try and keep up, okay?
But yeah, I thought these vocals were kind of cute. They, I mean, Diva's obviously like a gamer girl, and the song's called High Score, so I figured they fit. So yeah, those are the vocals. Next, we have all the pads and stuff. So these are just kind of background. They play during the breakdowns and like in the outro. So you have pad 2, which is kind of the main pad. So that's just a flex preset. I have a crusher on it that crushes during a certain point of the track. The filter, mute, and then just a low cut on there. Those just play like the same chords that like the stabs play. Next we have pad 1, which is actually plays like this like quick like quarter note pattern of the chords, and that is a Dune 3 preset. I hardly ever use the presets in Dune 3, but yeah, that's what this is, and that sounds like this. Comes in filtered, but then yeah, I added the crush to it to give it like kind of like a low sample rate vibe. So this one's actually being in effect here, instead of just like something that I automate on and off like throughout the track. I did a little bit of high cut because the crush introduced some like nasty high noises, and then low cut, get rid of the low noises. Also, whenever you're high cutting something, always turn high quality mode on because it oversamples it, so you don't end up like screwing up the sound and like making artifacts and all that. think I don't remember exactly what this does. I just know that you should always use it when you doing high end EQing. Has to do with like the Nyquist frequency and all that. That kind of stuff that I'm not super knowledgeable about. So next, we have the effects. Let's go over these real quick. Just two really basic white noise sweeps that I layered together. And then volume adjusted, added some reverb, and EQ'd them. Pretty basic stuff. Then I have the boom from my track Endless. It was literally just a kick from that track with some EQ and a bunch of reverb on it. That's just to kind of accent like the breakdowns and stuff. Next, we have this Woo sample, which has been used in like every song ever to death. So I have a delay on there, and then I have a Chip Crusher with the Amiga preset on it after the delay. Oh, I turned the cabinet off on these, by the way, because I don't want that. And that's how it gets like that kind of like degrading fade out effect, and then a low cut to get rid of any low noise. Next we have a pitch riser that I ended up not using, but I'll go ahead and just play that for you. You can hear what it sounds like. I keep getting to unmute this stuff. So yeah, it just ended up not really fitting the track very well, so I took it out. And then we have extra noise. So this is like a really like gentle kind of sweep sound. Did some EQing to it, and that's just there to kind of fill out the background a little bit, like when the lead comes in. And then next we have the bubble, which is a sample that I've had forever that I then just stretched it to fit and did some EQing to it. Made it mono, I believe that's what this is doing. Yeah, and then added some reverb and EQ. That plays right before the drops to kind of bring it in. And the last thing is the volume automation. So this is to automate the master fader. So I would just want it on all the time at the beginning. And I know that like initialize track with this position will usually take care of that, but I just do this because I'm paranoid. And then I just have it fade out right here. So that way like any like extra noise or like delay tails and stuff that are like really quiet that you can't really hear, they get turned down to 0 and then it'll stop rendering at that point. So yeah, that is the track. Those are all the parts for it. I hope this was informative to you, and maybe you can get some insight into the song, my workflow, and well, maybe not my workflow, but like you know, some of the decisions that I make when I'm producing. Anyway, I just hope it was useful. Also, before I go, I want to say that my friend Aiden wanted to let y'all know that he says hi. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it was helpful, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.